Today we're having legs from behind, and we discussed the leg anatomy yesterday, but we'll review it again, the main part that can be seen from behind. So what we have here is the gluteus maximus, big strong muscle that goes like this and has a thin part on the left, well, on the outside really, that connects to the iliotibial tract. Beneath the tract, on the outer side, we have the vastus lateralis, an outside part of the quadricep. We can see it here, but we see the gluteus medium, outside the gluteus maximus, and then we have the greater trochanter, a piece of bone sticking out, a piece of femur. Then we have the tensor fasciae latae, which engages the tract, so it's formed like this, surrounding the greater trochanter. So the greater trochanter is kinda between the gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and the tensor fasciae latae. So we have our femur, the hip bone that goes like this, and then we have the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, and the tensor fasciae latae, and between them we have the greater trochanter, the thick part of the bone sticking out. This is on the upper part. Now, lower we have the vastus lateralis, so a part of quadricep, which is hidden beneath the tract, and then we have the biceps femoris and semitendinosus. Here it can be unified as a shape with semimembranosus. So what we have actually is a form like this. And then we insert the gastrocnemius muscle between, like this. On the view from behind, we have the Achilles tendon, the heel, and the soleus. So we don't see much here, besides the gastrocnemius. That will be the main part. Now let's find them on an athlete. So what we have here is the gluteus maximus, gluteus medium, adductor fasciae. Then we have the vastus lateralis, which is a part of quadricep, and the tract, biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and they form the lower plane of the leg. Which is where the gastrocnemius is being attached and then the soleus muscle can be seen beneath it. Now we will start a drawing of our own. As always, we will start with the general silhouette of the form. Here we can go from top to bottom or other way around. But what the most important is to define the silhouette as fast as possible, working with an image as a whole. Our first leg here. Now we will rotate the pelvis. We use a guideline here because our pelvis is inclined. Our right knee will be lower. So this line allows us to connect the knees and to compare them, to compare the height of the knee. Defining the shapes of the general silhouette and also adding accent points on the lines. This allows me to have a better grasp of the form. Basically, it makes me like the form more because I already added some accent points. It pops out, makes it more interesting to look at, and this in turn helps me to be more motivated to draw it and to make the form sharper, better defined. What we have here is a little bit of fibula, right, sticking on the outside, and tibia sticking on the inside. I mentioned these exits yesterday, which relate to the fact that tibia is higher than fibula, their attachment points, and the gastrocnemius has a little bit of asymmetry going on, like this. We can create a plane here using 4 points, the tendons of gastrocnemius and the tendons of semimembranosus and biceps femoris. We create this leg here, then we kinda go around it with our tendons, This here is tendons attached to sartorius muscle and to the gracilis muscle and to the adductor longus. So there they go, like this, 3 long tendons, and this is the form that we see here and here, and the form that we're currently drawing in our main drawing. But we'll quickly intersect it with another shape. So we have the same membranous here and the biceps femoris, and now we have the vastus lateralis. This part can be sort of a rectangular shape which was connected to a long spherical form, which was then in turn connected to the gluteus maximus. Because of that, we can show a plane here and add a little bit of shading on the lower part of that plane. Lower part of that volume, sorry. What I'm drawing now is not muscles, but the shapes, general planes of the form. This has turned out to be too big. Let's make it smaller. And also, this can also be divided into planes, the one facing inward and the one facing outward. And the same is going on the other side. Because the tendon goes here, the tendons of the biceps femoris. And then, between them, the gastrocnemius tendons are attached. These shapes that I'm currently drawing again help me divide the form into planes and shade it. The tibia can be shown as S line, right, like this. But of course we're watching from behind, so the shape will be not very strong. Let's add planar analysis and show a plane on the side. Let's work with the Achilles tendon and the heel now. This is the bone part, because we can roughly divide heel in the bone part and the fleshy pedal below, and that form will envelop the smaller form of the bone sticking out, like this. Now these lines are too much, so I'm weakening them and adding more shading. You can also add planes here, because this can be seen as a plane also. So we have a frontal plane like this, because while the muscles, there are two muscles here, well, actually more, but anyway, but they are rarely defined strongly, so we have to hatch over them to simplify the form, or rather to unify it. Now we're adding hatching here, to make the volume easier to read. You can note that I'm usually hatching in the direction of the form. Each part of the hatching can be thought of as a section that shows how the form works. Now it's a little bit messy, so I'm blurring some of it, not all, but some of it, especially this part. And adding bigger, rougher pieces of hatching on the border of the form. This drawing will be sketchy, it will be quite fast, so I'm adding bone slides everywhere, because I'm not aiming at very realistic tone in this drawing. I'm just aiming at showing form as clearly as possible, and bone slides usually add in that. Let's create this part of the form where we show visible difference between vastus lateralis, which is bulging here, and the muscles on the back of our leg. So I'm adding a plane here in the inside of the vastus lateralis. Of course, at this point, it'd be really good to know where the second foot is, and I'm adding it. There it is. Now to work on the general shape. Because our pelvis goes like this, we'll have the gluteus maximus on the right going down, like this. And the gluteus maximus on the left, we can draw like this, enveloping the leg. And here I'm using a guideline to show the volume. There we go. Greater trachanter goes here. We can shade the lower part of it. And as you remember, the gluteus maximus has little tentacle on its end that connects to the iliotibial tract. Adding some shading here. And these guidelines allows us to distinguish the front side from the side on the left of the form. And we use this guideline to hatch over it, creating a border between light and shadow, a border between faces of the form. Of course, we can then shade over the lower part to show that it's facing down, and therefore less light reaches it, usually. This is the border of the gluteus maximus, and this upper part is all gluteus medius. We will now define the volume of the gluteus medius. And we can show the adductor fasciae, and the lower part of the gluteus medius can be shaded like this. So we have these forms surrounding the greater trachanter. That's one leg more or less defined. Let's go to the other one. Adding a guideline to divide the form into its faces. hatching the lower part of the volume and the outward part. Weakening the line and adding another layer of hatching. Let's also make the line thinner and weaker on the far leg, because we will need the far leg less defined. Or rather, less accented. Dividing the form of the gastrocnemius and the form of the top of the biceps femoris and semitendinosus and semimembranosus envelops around forming shapes like this. Now here I made the lower part of the leg too short. We'll move it like this, because while the right knee is lower, it's not as low as I made it. This requires a correction of proportions. Now I'm drawing tibia on the inside to make sure I know how much of the gastrocnemius muscle will be here. And the soleus muscle below the gastrocnemius muscle. Defining the shape of the lower part of the hip. So we're having here our muscles, the two, and we have this change in direction, so this plane will be lighted better than this one. And planes wise, we have to divide our two muscles here into side plane and the front plane. Same with the tendon here. And the tendon here. And actually the tendons of the gastrocnemius muscle also have these planes. So the side plane, the front plane, the side plane. There it is. And now we managed to make the insertion. Let's show the side face of the gastrocnemius muscle. And this lower part. We can use a guideline like this to create the border using light and shadow. There we have the heel. The fibula is lower, as usual. And now we just go over the drawing, see which parts we enhance and which parts we make weaker. By weaker I mean having less tone and thinner lines. We also can add guideline like this to show that this part is wider than this part. Actually, this part of the attachment also can be divided into planes. The one facing down, the one facing up. And this part as well. Now let's add more tone on the foreground. especially on the borders between light and shadow. Vastus medialis here. And this is the part where Sartorius, Gracilis and the Dr. Longus attach. Now let's erase the chunk. Actually, this line here isn't very good because we have to show that the adductor starts. So like this. So we have a change of direction between vastus medialis and the adductors. Now the part closest to us isn't this, it's this part, where different faces of the form collide. So we can not only get the tone here weaker, but also here. So to the right and to the left of our main border between light and shadow. We can remake the line in some of these places, but not as strong as it was. Same goes to this tendon. It's good, but a little too bright, a little too dark, I mean. And there we have it. Legs from behind. That's it. If you are watching in YouTube, then please leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you are watching this on Twitch, thanks for watching. The next stream will cover feet. That's it. See you next time. Bye bye.